J.P. White, SportsSpeak Sports. We're happy to have Gary Decker, the Silsbee editor and former Beaumont Enterprise sports editor. Gary, tell me something about a football season, football team.
I'll tell you, the Tigers did a great job this year. They last year they went through the district season undefeated after they lost 3 or 4 early on, and so to come back this year and have to defend that is difficult enough. But then they graduated their senior quarterback, Jeremy Johnson, who went off to West Virginia. So they were starting out with a brand new quarterback this year, and Kelson McDaniel was that quarterback. He was a senior this year. So they didn't win district undefeated, but they did make the playoffs. And because they were the largest school in the district, they went into that division, that bracket.
You mentioned there Jeremy Johnson, and I understand, I've heard a little bit. He's not at West Virginia. He's finished and he's back home at the moment. Do you have any idea what might happen with him?
I've not had the opportunity to talk to Jeremy yet. I'm hoping to do that soon. What I've heard from people at Lamar is that Jeremy's going to attend Lamar University next year. He's going to take classes in the spring and get into the program, and then in the fall he'll go in and become part of that football team. With the way Lamar was created, with players from junior colleges, and they have limited scholarships. Most of the kids who came in were juniors or seniors, so they're going to lose some of their talent, some of their skill athletes. So I think Jeremy will have a real chance to come in and impact the Cardinals program right away.
Well, you tell me how many more games it would take them to the state championship game?
Typically, you're looking at 16 games in a season, played in 17 weeks. They play 10 games in 11 weeks during the regular season, and then there are 6 games after that. They have by-district area, regional quarters, regional semis, and then the regional game, and then the championship. So, we're looking at somewhere around Christmas that the season ends.
All right. How about basketball? They haven't really gotten started yet, have they?
Not yet, but DC Stallworth is going to be a stud this year. He just is going to really dominate basketball in Southeast Texas. You're going to see his name all over the newspapers and on TV.
That's great. How about the girls? You got anything with the girls yet?
The girls are struggling a little bit early on. Jason Sanders is the coach over there, and he started out with just a few girls. He wasn't even sure he was going to have enough to make a junior varsity this year. But Jason, it really doesn't matter what Jason has. Jason finds a way to win. He's a fantastic coach. He proved that last year. People didn't think he had a chance at all of doing well last year, and they made the playoffs. I expect the same thing from this year from the Lady Tigers.
Well, how about, I'm going to ask you about Lumberton football and the Kuntz football and the Evadale football. I want to ask you tell us about Lumberton football, what you know.
Lumberton, Coach Crater, Alvin Crater over there, he started out with the middle school, and he worked his way up to that varsity head coaching position, and he took the Raiders to the playoffs for the first time in school history. This year, I don't know if they were 4-6 or 3-7. They had a tough season in district. They did not make the playoffs, but that's going to be the uncommon year as opposed to like years past when Lumberton never made the playoffs. There comes a time when you bring up so many kids from the lower levels, you're going to eventually get a group who are all in that same class. And so when they graduate, it's a rebuilding year. And I think that's kind of what Coach Crater was facing this year. He had Asher and he had Hughes at quarterback and running back, and those guys were solid athletes. But at the same time, when you've got young kids on the offensive line and you've got a young defense, it's tough to win games.
How about Kuntz football? Are you familiar with what happened there?
Mike Stewart people are familiar with him here in Silsbee and over in Evadale. He's the head coach over in Kuntz now. And, they had some kids who were strong. It's just Kuntz battles its own reputation, I think, even from within at times. People say, well, don't worry about football season, we're a basketball school. Well, the kids who only play football, they don't believe that. And I think you saw some of that this year. They won some games that they probably shouldn't have, and they lost some games they probably shouldn't have. And I think once you get the two things together where you're winning consistently, I think you could see Koontz making a run at the playoffs. It's difficult when you've got Newton and East Chambers and teams like that in your district. But, when you're taking 3 teams out of a district to the playoffs, you've got a shot at that number 3 spot. And, when my son played for Koontz a couple of years ago, they snuck up on East Chambers and beat them when they, were expected not to beat them. And so there's always that opportunity to come up and beat that front runner and get into the playoffs.
How about a buddy over at Evadale?
Mark Williams, there are a few coaches that I like and respect more than Mark, and he does a great job over there every year. And, he coaches football, he coaches baseball. Last year they went to the baseball state tournament, and that success, even though it was last year, it rolls right over into this year. They were undefeated in football. I believe regular season games they had won 30 or 40 in a row without losing. And so that's a testament to what they're able to do over there.
I want to ask you about the Lamar Cardinal football team.
Okay. They refer to Lamar as LU for Lamar University, but you could almost call it Lumberton University. There's so many kids from Lumberton who have gone to Lamar and have made an impact on that team. It's great to see Lamar put together a football program where they value the local athletes. And I think they realize, Ray Woodard is the head coach over there. You've got Craig McGallion from Silsbee, who's the coach over there. They know the talent that we have locally. They know that they can get some kids from outside the area, but that they should look first right here in Southeast Texas to find those stud athletes, and they're finding them.
Well, let's see. I want you to throwing you a curve this time. What's one of the strange things that you have seen in the past in sports? You got something that you can tell us about that?
There are lots of strange things that have happened in sports in Southeast Texas. I see almost everything either from the sidelines or from the press box. I was at a Central baseball game, and it was, for the district championship. The coach waved a player around third base. They had 2 outs. He was sliding into home plate. Game over. Central loses, and the coach lays the blame completely on the kid. And it was a difficult thing as a reporter to stay, in the middle on that story when it was obvious. I watched the man wave him around. These kids, they're in a difficult situation being 16, 17, 18 years old. They're not quite adults, but they're not really kids anymore. And then you put this badge of star athlete on their shirt, and it's difficult. It's a lot of responsibility. And I know that Kelson, he felt responsible for losing that game Thursday night. And my point is, there are 11 guys on the field for both teams every time, and win or lose, everybody gets credit for some of that.
Sure. Oh, I better ask you about the Dallas Cowboys. Now that they have a new coach, tell us something about what you're thinking about that.
Well, I don't follow the Cowboys. I don't follow professional sports very well. I know that the Cowboys, I hated to see Wade Phillips go.
I did too.
We had a local guy on there, and Bum being his dad, you figure it's a natural thing that he would be the same coach, and I think he's had some of the same success. But when you go 1-7, 1-8, you've got to do something, and I think Jerry Jones had no choice but to, fire Wade and move on to the next one. You just can't, with as much money at stake as there is, and with as much, with TV and the fans following, you can't just continue to a 1-15 like we saw back in the 80s.
Well, you've given me a lot of good information. Is there something you'd like to tell us now, in addition to what I've asked you the questions? Anything you want to tell us?
Absolutely. The Silsbee volleyball team.
Yes.
They finished as the district champs. They beat Bridge City twice out of 3 meetings. The second time they beat them, they won a share of the district title. The third time they beat them, they won the right to represent the district as district champs. And I just don't think, we try to cover those girls as best we can, but I still don't think volleyball gets the attention than it should in this area. We have some great volleyball teams. The Tigers, they were led by Chelsea Neely. She was just selected as the most valuable player for District 21 3A in a unanimous vote among all the coaches in the district. So that really tells you what kind of athlete she was. The Lady Tigers did great. They went to the first round of the second round of the playoffs, had a first round bye, and they lost. But it wasn't for lack of ability and talent. It was just they had an off day. I mean, when you beat Bridge City, which was ranked number 16 in the state at the time, that's a team that can beat pretty much anybody.
Bridge City's always good.
They absolutely are.
How about the Lamar Lady Cardinal volleyball team? Are you familiar with what's happening there?
Not too familiar with that. I know that they've played pretty deep into the season. They're still active at this point. One thing I am excited about is seeing Ange Green on the basketball team. You know, Ange played for Silsbee 2 years ago and graduated, and she's doing a great job. I think that the most impressive thing about Ange is not that she's just a stud athlete they're going to push through the system and then she goes home with, you know, 2/3 of a college degree. This young woman is extremely bright, extremely talented in the classroom, and she's going to wind up doing something great with her life that may or may not include the basketball court.
Thank you, Gary Deckert, editor of the Silsbee Bee,
Thank you for having me.
sports editor of the Beaumont Enterprise. Sure happy to have you. You did a good job. I'm liking what you said.
Well, thank you very much. I'll be happy to come back anytime.
Thank you. J.T. White, SportsSpeak Sports.